Welcome to the First Responder Wellness Podcast. My name is Conrad Weaver. I'm so grateful that you've joined us today. This is episode number 95. It's really amazing that we have made it this far, and I want to let you know something, that episode 100 is coming. It's only a few weeks away, and I'm planning something very special for that episode. So be sure to subscribe to the show, whether you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or whether you watch it on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode, and especially episode 100. You don't want to miss it, so stay tuned. Today, I'm talking with Joe King. Joe is a 28-year veteran with the Dallas Police Department and the host of the ATO Bridging the Divide podcast, and the driving force behind changing the conversation about mental health in law enforcement. Joe gives us a look at the Dallas Police Department's Officer Assistant Program, and we talk about what it takes to lead from the front and from the top, and how personal and departmental wellness strategies can save careers and families. Hey, it's an important conversation, and if you know someone who would benefit from listening, please share the podcast episode with them. Do it right now. Just click the link and share it with them. They will appreciate it, I'm sure. And now, here's my conversation with Joe King. Well, Joe, welcome to the First Responder Wellness Podcast. I'm so glad we were able to connect and have you on the program.
Conrad, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on. I've listened to your show, and I really appreciate what you're doing for the first responder community, and also the non-first responder community, because they listen to it as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. So you are with the Dallas PD and with their wellness unit. Before we came on air, you were talking about how you started 28 some years ago, and back then there was nothing. You talk about these things, right? So kind of talk to me about how that transformed in your agency and in your own life, and in talking about wellness.
Well, I'll tell you, in '97 when I started, it was not talked about, because there was a lot of shame or embarrassment attached to seeking help in this space. And when I hired on, we had one city psych doc that was assigned to over 3,000 officers, that if they have an officer involved shooting. Yeah. So it really, he was very good at what he did, but it was really, looking back, it was really a check the box kind of approach. You have an officer involved shooting, you have a critical incident, and you get a card, and you're said, well, if you need anything, reach out. Well, you know as well as I do that if the culture is to not reach out and feel like you're going to be safe in doing it, and you're not going to be put into a position in the department that's kind of buried, nobody's going to reach out.
Right.
And over time, myself, I was not a big believer in counseling either. When I started, I worked in South Dallas, which is one of the roughest parts of Dallas, for almost 20 years. And I did nothing but chase drugs, gangs, and weapons. And there was plenty there in that area. And I saw a lot of death. I saw a lot of violence. I saw a lot of grief, exposed to a lot of grief. But what really got me is in 2016, we had July 7th, 2016. I'm sure you've heard of that. Yep. And losing a friend in that really that, I believe, pushed me over the edge as far as realizing I need to do something. I need to talk to somebody.
And for those who may not be familiar with that event, just kind of give the cliff notes of that. What happened there?
Yeah, so it was July 7th, 2016. It was a protest going on in downtown Dallas, and basically a former he was former military, had approached officers and took a position of concealment, and he shot 13 officers and killed 5 in that incident. 4 Dallas officers and 1 Dart police was killed in that incident. And then he barricaded himself into part of a local college, and SWAT had to take him out. But the ripple effect from that incident, I believe that Dallas PD is still feeling the shockwaves after that, after going on 9 years later.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can kind of hear it in your voice, and when you're talking about it, kind of chokes you up when you're still really viscerally affected by that.
Oh, absolutely. There's not many days that go by that I do not think about it, but it also helped me sharpen my mission now, and helping other officers and the mental the mental health space, because I went through an entire career, and it literally took falling to pieces to realize that I needed to be put that together, or I did a very poor job. And I believe our department and the profession did a very poor job of educating officers, providing support for officers, and also just providing a culture to take care of yourself. I mean, they give us incredible vests, incredible helmets and shields, and all these this weaponry, but we really didn't put an emphasis on protecting our minds.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing, and I talk to people, all the time about this, but I'm always interested in hearing other people's perspectives as to why so much. I understand we need, and you guys need all this
Mm-hmm.
protection. You need the helmets, the vests, the weapons. You need all these things to do your job and to be safe. But the most important part of your body is often forgotten,
Absolutely.
the brain, and that, I guess, because it's kind of that mystical, it's out there, you don't see it, you don't, it's kind of a theory almost that you are affected by these things. So what did Dallas PD do to start kind of changing the focus of that?
Well, I'm gonna touch on what you just said. You made me think of something, and I wanna address it. You talk about it's
Sure.
kind of a mystical thing that's kind of out there nobody sees. Well, when you have an injury, if you have a gunshot wound, an officer gets shot, you actually see that. If an officer blows their knee out in a foot chase, they're hurt. They're running around on crutches for a few months. When people are breaking down mentally because of the culture and because of just it's human nature is to hide that, because that is historically looked at as a weakness. And sadly, it's even more so in, I believe, the first responder and military community. And yeah, we've here in Dallas since late 2021, our former chief, Eddie Garcia, he had his assistant chief to take a look and check the temperature of the department and say, we're having all these internal affairs complaints. We're having all these alcohol-related incidents, which, alcohol, as you well know, is a symptom of coping with a PTSD and trauma exposure. So they took a deep dive, and then they realized our Dallas Police Department was not doing so well. And it's something we kind of knew for years. And Chief said, put something together. So they put together the wellness unit, which is the Officer Wellness Longevity, the OWL. It's if you can look up our logo, it was created along with the unit. So as most peer support models are who wants to be a peer supporter? And you have like maybe 10 people raise their hand voluntarily, train them up, and then they sit on the sidelines and kind of wait for something to go wrong. So already you're kind of working in a crisis situation. Most peer support models are train these people up, and let's be honest, there's probably a lot of people that do it and volunteer that should not be doing it. They're department gossipers, or they don't have their own house in order themselves. And if you run somebody out there to certain people, officers or first responders, or even civilian staff, if you have a reputation for not being liked or trusted, nobody's going to utilize you.
Sure.
So what Dallas did is we're building on their proactive approach to mental wellness. And basically we get all the calls that come in that can be looked at as high trauma exposure, like homicide or suicide, any child offense, fatality accident, or any other crazy, out of the ordinary call that an officer may get exposed to, or even 911 call takers and civilian staff, such as crime scene, because they see some really horrible things daily.
Sure.
So we handpicked nearly 40 informal leaders throughout the department, and they work in SWAT, they work in homicide, they're narcotics detectives, or they're FTOs that are kind of legendary in their field on the streets. And we train them up, and we proactively reach out to the officers that respond to these calls to check on them, see if they're okay. And then we provide any resources that if they need to talk to somebody. And sometimes the initial call would go like, hey, this is Joe Kingham in the wellness unit, and I saw you answer that shooting call over there on Grand. sounds like a pretty bad scene. Those could be tough. Are you okay? And a lot of times it starts a lot of dialogue, and a lot of people you'll get, I'm fine. I'm fine. That's kind of the soundboard response you get.
Sure.
And, but days, maybe weeks later, maybe months later, somebody reaches out and say, you know what? I'm still struggling with that. So with that first initial contact, proactively open the door and knew that shows people where they can come if they need it. And a lot of times people reach back out months. I've had people reach back out over a year later and say, hey, you talked to me a long time ago. Well, I'm going through a divorce. I need to see if I can get a counselor, or my kid's cutting. I'm having issues, or I answered another call that's really weighing on me. So it really is an introduction to, you're putting it out there before they have a chance to ask for help. And then you're providing it in the first nearly year. We were seeing 10 to 12% of officers that we reached out to say they would like to talk to a counselor. So we have.
Well, that's a great step in the right direction for sure.
Well, we believe that is important. We call it the checkpoint model, checking in on the officers, but we also have an education piece that we go talk to the rookies their first day in the academy, and we go see them multiple times through the academy. And Dallas PD has academy classes going year round. And we have an education piece about mental health and the effects on the mind and the body. And then we also have a field training officer. Of course, we put field training officers through, and then also leadership positions. So we keep hitting them with, because the higher you go up, the more of a view you have taking care of your people.
Yeah. So for you in your journey, what was it that was that moment where you said, you know what, I need to do something, or I'm not going to last in this profession?
Well, I wasn't after 7/7. I wasn't sleeping. I kept reliving a certain and what was affecting me was at the funeral for one of my friend. It was a vivid memory that I have, and I could not shake it. And there's a lot of survivor's guilt, I guess you could say, looking back now that I was dealing with, and I just said I have to talk to somebody. And then at the time, the Assist Officer Foundation here in Dallas, it's a longstanding nonprofit foundation run by officers, started by officers in Dallas and run by officers. And they provided confidential counseling to officers and their families and firefighters as well. So I said, okay. And I trusted the organization. That was the key step. Having trust in anything is key. And all of the counselors that they handpicked are all trauma trained, meaning they do EMDR, ART, and they're very effective dealing with police, fire, and military, and also experienced. Some of them, the one that I went to actually was a former Dallas police officer. She did 23 years in Dallas and 17 years as a detective, and now she is one of our best counselors, helping put us back together. So I went to her. I did EMDR for several sessions, and I started becoming a believer. And then whenever, in 2021, I was at a mental health conference, and I saw 10 first responders get on a panel, and each of them were given 10 minutes to speak about their critical incidents or their alcoholism or just the PTSD that ruined their family and ruined their lives. They all got to speak on a topic, and it was a combination of police and fire, and the audience was a combination of police and fire. And I looked around the room, and I was seeing handshaking. Nobody was playing on their phone. Everybody was engaged, hanging on these stories. And then afterwards, it started up a conversation that I had never seen in the first responder world. And that was in summer of 2021.
Yeah. So how important is it for you to have the right tools so that you can manage and better manage the stuff that you experience?
I believe from a department standpoint, working for a major city, Dallas is number 9 in the country. We have a lot of officers, and we have a lot of trauma exposure here. I believe the biggest tool is support from the top, because if you do not have support from the top trickling down, it permeates through the entire organization. If you do not have that, it is not going to go anywhere. because if you just have like a lieutenant level or major level, even it doesn't get up to the chief level support, or they kind of half support it. They just want to, they throw out an app, they throw an app at a department, they just leave it at that. It's not going to go over well. I think the biggest tool and asset we've had is having support from the top and the message being forced on all below, because honestly, there's some organizational trauma that goes on. There's some bad leadership that actually contributes to officers' mental health and officers, throw in retention. People leave departments because of terrible supervision and leadership. So I think the biggest tool is, one, having support from the top. And then honestly, we have the Assist the Officer Foundation with the free resources. If we wouldn't have had that counseling, because like I said, we have seen our counseling bill triple in the cost, which is a great thing. That means it's being utilized. But we have seen it go from 103,000 the first year and then up to almost 300,000 last year. So
wow.
I believe that is a symptom of changing culture, and you just have to stay on it. You can't let it go stale, because otherwise your message becomes the, challenge coin du jour hanging in the elevator. People walk by 1,000 times a day, in a building. So you just got to keep the message going. You got to keep it fresh. You got to be innovative, and you have to be unrelenting in your approach to mental health.
Mm-hmm. Some people would hear those kind of numbers and be like, wow, you're spending that much? There must be some really messed up people there. And you're saying just the opposite. You got people getting help and being helped.
Yeah. Listen, there are a lot of people that can, the most traumatic part of their day would be driving to work and getting cut off and nearly having an accident. But you got men and women going to calls daily. You're dealing with other people's grief, or other people's violence, other people's trauma. And, let's be honest, anybody answers a child offense call, I mean, one of the worst things I answered was in 99, and it dealt with an infant. So, and it still hangs with me. That is the reality for the first responders, and we have had a culture of not processing it properly and packing it away, or honestly half-ass packing it away for generations. And now we're actually doing something about it. And I'm proud of those numbers. I mean, it's the wellness unit, as well as the podcast, has probably cost the ATO a lot of money, and other places a lot of money, but I believe that's money well spent.
Hey, for the past several months, I've been enjoying using the Train Well program for my daily workouts. I used to be really inconsistent with working out, and often I didn't know what to do next to achieve the results I wanted. I felt stuck. Train Well has solved that problem for me. So if you would like your own personal trainer to guide you, it's actually really easy. Visit go.trainwell.net/first responder wellness. That's go.trainwell.net/first responder wellness, and start your journey to a better you. If I can do it, I know you can too. Hey, the link is below. So let's talk about leadership a little bit. There's one thing, like you talked about, someone just buying an app for the people and say, hey, go use this. It'll help you in some way, and not being really invested in it. How important is it for leaders themselves to say, hey, I go to see a therapist because I got stuff I'm dealing with?
Leading by example. I mean, leading by example. Yeah. Don't lead by a bumper sticker car saying stop, smash the stigma, or whatever you're going to say. You lead by actions. I believe that words never amount to anything if you don't put action behind it. And I'm, an app is a tool. It's a tool to gather resources, to put out information. But I believe the personal touch is what you have to do. And if you're a leader out there that you're not putting full-time resources to your people, I'm sorry, but I don't believe you're doing enough. And I believe that your troops, and I believe the troops' families are going to, it's the detriment of them. And you want to keep officers, you want to extend their careers, you want to keep officers happy and in a healthy space so they can serve the citizens of that city you're in. That's what you need to do. You need to make as much as you make response times a priority, as much as you make crime stats a priority. You need to make your officers' mental health and their well-being a priority.
Mhm. You mentioned family, and that is something that I've heard before on this podcast, where people have talked about how the residual effects, whatever happens at the station, at the police department, or at the firehouse, it trickles down to the family and it impacts those family members. And sometimes, unfortunately, it impacts them and it rips them apart. And so if you as a department, as a leader, if you're seeing that happening, man, you got to step in, right? And you got to do something to help your people.
Yeah, I will say that sadly, this is a number that I'm as a part of an organization I'm not proud of. The Dallas PD is nearly 70% divorce rate. And
Wow.
when I heard on, it was almost joked about as a badge of honor, like, oh, you're not a real cop until you've had 2 divorces. Okay. And
Wow.
drinking is another horrible side effect of
Mhm.
dealing and coping. So to the family, well, who sees you most? You're not actually working, but you go home
Yeah.
and you're trying to come down from a hypervigilant state of being it in the red all day, and then you go home, and then you have home issues, and they
Mhm.
you don't tell them everything that you dealt with because you want to shield them from what you had to see or do because you don't
Sure.
want them to worry, and that I really believe causes a lot of marriages to crumble, and then also risky behavior that a lot of first responders engage in to deal with the trauma and to cope with it.
Mhm.
That also is a big factor, and I believe getting out in front of this, educating not just the officers, but also we have information. We have couples retreats for the spouse as well. And honestly, I have a
Mhm.
lot of spouses that listen to the podcast, and just like yours, that getting the message out there and letting them understand what their husband or wife are going through. That way,
Mhm.
they at least have some knowledge of what to do. And like I said, we actually pay for spouse and for the children and for the counseling. And I think that's very key. You could shield them enough,
Mhm.
but they see when you're falling apart and they see when you're breaking down.
Mhm. So how do you get the troops to buy into the wellness unit? You launched this thing in 21. How do you get the rank and file, who maybe some of them have been there for 15 years and they know what went on before, not much.
Mhm.
How do you get them to say yes to uh, talking to someone like you?
You pick the right messengers. You don't pick you have to every organization has informal leaders, and rank really doesn't matter. You pick people that have been in the trenches, that are generally respected by the majority of the department. You're not going to make everybody happy, but you have to pick the right lead, the right messenger to deliver the message, and you have to be persistent. Don't get a bunch of
Mm.
volunteers and I'm sorry, you need to vet these folks, and you need
Mhm.
to have support from the top. You get the support of the top
Mhm.
down, and then you have the right messenger. A lot of people will believe in the message. So I'm going to tell you a story about we have an alcohol leave policy, which was when our chief brought it up. He said, if an officer comes forward before they have an alcohol related incident, the city will pay for pay for their leave while they're inside an inpatient facility. And I went,
Mm.
wow. Oh, I said,
Wow.
okay, that sounds nice. I said, if we have one in a calendar year, I think we can say that it's a success. Well, we have 14,
Wow.
and shockingly, and many more probably need to go. But I
Mhm.
remember some people like early on were, they were kind of, crap talking the policy. Oh, look, this is a way for them to get you and all this. Well, some of them people actually stepped forward and went into the program themselves. And we've had
Mhm.
two people that actually went through are now promoted to leaders and commanders on the department. And they both, two of them came on the show and told their story. And I think there's value in messaging and storytelling, because you're like,
Sure.
that guy right there could do it. I could do it as well. So it's, that's the battle.
That's a great way to kind of bust that stigma and really address that because that's alcohol is probably one of the number one
Oh,
issues with first responders in general.
very, yes.
You know, it's like in the film, Dr. Phil Bequee says, it's something that's socially acceptable. It's like everybody does it, and this is, it's easy to get.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of officers that get arrested for DWI, and I'm like, man, in today's age of rideshare being at the fingertips, it makes me sad. And not everybody drinks so much where they need to go into a rehab facility, but some people just go off to blow off some steam and they have too much for that particular day. And the first thing that goes is your judgment when when you're drinking, and drinking has ruined many lives and marriages and professions.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. It's one of those drugs that, is perfectly legal and perfectly accepted by most of society.
Oh, absolutely. And it's really entrenched in the first responder world. And I get it. I have a cocktail myself, but
Sure.
I'm not trying to preach to anybody or be judgmental, but I want people to understand that there are actions that we are held to a higher standard. And if a CEO or somebody, a plumber or anybody else gets arrested, it's not going to make the news. And you're not going to be sitting there with a mug shot with a towel around your neck, looking like you're at your worst state. That's something we all can control. We can control how much we drink, and we can also control how we get from point A to point B. And I just, my message will always be that, everybody says, "Oh, call me." You call me. So, well, also you can call me, but call an Uber, get a Lyft coming to, pick you up. They're readily available. It probably costs less than you paid for those drinks.
Right. And it's certainly going to be less than a DUI.
And because, in Texas, for the first responders, DUI is pretty much a death penalty for your career. It takes away your livelihood. And I know for me personally, there's no buzz, there's no good time. There's no amount of laughs or enjoyment I can have with my friends that it's worth losing everything that I've worked really hard for.
Mm-hmm. But, for a leader to step up and say, hey, we need to put in this policy that if you have a problem, you can go away, get help for it, and you still have your job when you come back.
You're right. And it was really, really a game changer here in Dallas and in law enforcement, what I've seen, because I looked around and other agencies aren't doing it. And it really, it even took me a second to buy in. But when people started reaching out, especially the types of people that started, we had, one of the SWAT legends, and he actually came on the show and talked all about it. I was shocked. When he first sent an email about it, I literally had to look in the directory, see if there was somebody else with that name in the directory. I said, no, that's him. And we got him help. And the promotion, people go to rehab, they set up with an aftercare program, and they go right back to the position. They don't get buried at the property room. They don't get a undesirable job, somebody where you're hidden. It's been really nice. And I knew our new chief he is really on board with our wellness message, and he wants to continue what we're started.
I mean, you said you had 14 people in that program. So how much would it cost to replace 14 officers?
Oh my gosh. That's a hard number to get locked in on, but I will tell you this: you either pay in the beginning or you pay on the backside when they're sitting on administrative leave for many months, and some cases a year, while the case is being disposed of. And also, you're losing, you're also sending a message, which more invaluable when it comes to putting a program out like this, is that you're sending a message to your department, to the entire department, that we truly care about you and you're going to be supported. We're going to set you up for success. Now, if you make a bad decision, in our department, you cannot utilize this, but also the wellness unit will still try to get you help if you get arrested or for PI for a DUI. But it's hard to put a number on, because there's a lot of factors that play into it. But we believe that if you pay on the front end and get these people, if they come forward, which takes a lot of strength to do, and to begin with, it's worth the investment.
Well, it's just like buying a new car. It's so much cheaper get that oil
maintain it.
changed
Yeah.
every so often than to replace an engine.
Absolutely. Yep.
So yeah. And I wish more people would understand that. I love what Chief Neil Gang said on my show a while back. He said that, when they were looking at starting a wellness unit, they didn't have any money in the budget, but that's okay. We're slated to buy 3 new cars, a small department, 3 new cars next year. Let's just buy 2, save that $85,000, put it into the wellness unit.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
That's what a real leader should do. Because again, it goes back to what is priority? What is priority? Having a nice new shiny Tahoe or potentially saving a life and a career.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the money you save from that, for years to come.
And think about it,
is going to be
the amount of training that you put into an individual, especially here in Dallas. We go through 9-month academy. You're putting a hell of a lot of investment into a human being to do a job to serve the city, and you want to keep them here. You want to keep them healthy, and you want to last as long as you can. The best version they could be, and putting programs in place and making them a priority is, I see the benefits here in Dallas, and I see the culture change. I'm pretty proud of it.
What would you say to that leader within an agency who doesn't have a program like what you guys have? What's a good first step for them to do to move toward that direction?
Get in a room and get your best leaders underneath you to come up with something as soon as possible. Don't put it off. Don't go, we'll look at it the next fiscal year. Get on it now, because the people you're hiring, the people that you're trying to retain, you owe it to them as a true leader. You owe it to them to keep them healthy in mind, body, and soul. And it could save a life. You could put a better product out on the streets to serve the citizens. And I think your department, and I believe your city or town, deserves that.
And so I like to ask this to some of my guests. Now I'm going to ask you, what do you do on the daily to take care of you?
Well, I work out. I'm proud that I work out 4 to 5 days a week, and that's kind of my that's my medicine. But also, I say that, I have people all the time saying, "Hey, you help a lot of people and you reach out to a lot of people. Well, are you okay?" I said, "I am okay." I check in with, honestly, just today I had a session with my counselor. I do that maintenance check, but also what I have found that, I arrested a lot of drug dealers. I arrested a lot of gangbangers, and it was very fun, very fulfilling. And I took a lot of pride in the type of work that I did, but the reward in helping one of my own and helping another officer, or knowing that I put them in a position to get a promotion or to keep their job or to save their marriage, that is medicine as well. And that's what I use.
There's no better feeling than to know that you've done something to help someone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Joe, you guys are doing it down there, and you're an example that others should follow. And I really appreciate you sharing this information, sharing a little bit of your story and the work that you guys are doing. Where can people hear your podcast? Where can they connect or learn more even about your the OWL program, as you guys call it?
If you want to look up the Assist Officer Foundation's podcast, it's the name of it's ATO Bridging the Divide, and it is found on every streaming platform: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart. If you want to know more about the Dallas PD Wellness Unit, you can look it up. You could email us at dpdwellness@dallaspolice.gov. And we would be happy. We actually have a lot of organizations reaching out to us to look at our SOP and share our, we don't have everything perfect, but we're always willing to help one of our fellow agencies. And the mission is to keep people safe and healthy and prevent any chief or any leader from having to hand over a folded flag.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Joe, thank you so much. Thanks for
being here. Thank you, Conrad. It's an honor. And thank you for what you do, delivering this message on this platform. It's important, and keep up the good work, brother.
That was Joe King. Hey, if you're in law enforcement, or if you're a first responder, or care about those who are, take what you heard today and do something with it. Share it. Share it with your team, your department, someone who needs to hear this. Share it with your leaders. I mean, we talk about leadership today and the importance of that. So be a leader and share it with the leaders in your agency. Let's stop pretending mental health is optional, because it's not optional. It's essential. It's essential for success. Let's live that way. And finally, please remember that you are not alone. And if you need someone to talk to, someone to turn to, and don't know where you can turn, dial 988 for help. Until next time, be well, take care of yourself and those around you, and go out and do something great in the world.